exogenous advertisements that, you know, honestly, I feel like sometimes we're subjected to it so much that we don't even notice it, you know? And it's like, it's like one of the most liberating feelings to be in a country where you're not like constantly reminded that as a woman you're some kind of object or you're like the property of others in society. My mother, who spent the last 4 years in prison after allegedly forging a check to avoid getting evicted from her apartment, she would never have had to avoid eviction in the first place, since housing would be guaranteed, just like Kayla mentioned earlier. Prisons would be reserved for the capitalists who have committed all this genocide around the world, and those who have committed serious antisocial crimes, not people trying to get by and survive and political prisoners like we have now in the U.S. Okay, lastly, fresh, healthy produce would be available for everyone in the country in this land of abundance where so much food is produced. I was telling a comrade of mine the other day that I actually didn't taste lettuce until I was 17 years old, because where I grew up in South Central Los Angeles, fresh produce did not exist. There was a fast food chain and a liquor store in every corner, but there wasn't grocery stores with fresh food. So, anyways, that's just a few things I could think of, you know, from my own personal experience about how socialism would personally affect me, and I'm sure you all can think of ways that it would affect you and the people you love and interact in the world. In order for socialism to be permanently established on the globe, the struggle has to be won in the citadels of world capitalism, and particularly right here in the U.S. So even more importantly, to talk about what socialism would look like in the U.S. is to really talk about what socialism would look like around the world. When Occupy Wall Street began happening, messages of solidarity from around the world came flooding in. And what a lot of folks from those countries, both from countries impressed by imperialism and oppressed workers in the imperialist countries themselves, what a lot of these folks were saying were like, damn, finally, like, what took you so long? You know, people were very excited that the movement was happening in the U.S. Because of the importance of creating change in the U.S. and the importance of that and the effect that has on countries around the world. All of the evils of capitalist society, war and military occupation, racism and repression, the oppression of women, LGBTQ people, the destruction of the environment, all of these are deeply connected by one common thread. They are each fomented to serve the profit interests of an insatiable capitalist ruling class. Profits drive capitalism to expand around the globe, and it also drives it to overproduce and implode into crisis. Now, as Lenin said, we know that the shell of imperialism and capitalism will inevitably be removed. But it's not just going to happen by itself. It's going to take the movement of people on the streets. It's going to take the movement of people building unity and solidarity and seeing their own revolutionary potential to make it happen. And that's really one of the things that makes the occupation movements, you know, Occupy Wall Street and the occupations in all the cities around the country and the world so important. They show that solidarity and cooperation is possible. The occupations are getting people to act and think more independently of the system and independently of all the organizations that tie them to that system. So, just in conclusion, a rising tide lifts all boats. Socialism in the U.S. would mean a breath of fresh air for Cuba, for all the countries that are oppressed by U.S. imperialism, and it would be a boon to revolutionary movements everywhere. Socialism in the U.S. will seriously and decidedly mean the victory of worldwide socialist revolution. I have no doubt about that at all. And that's why, you know, we think it's so important that we have discussions like this and keep talking about it and keep fighting about it, because we keep fighting for it, because that's the only way it'll happen. So, thank you.